What happens when a popular actor known for staying calm and thoughtful walks onto a daytime talk show expecting a normal conversation, only for a discussion about fame, responsibility, and public opinion to slowly turn into one of the most intense exchanges the audience has seen all season? Make sure to subscribe to Talk Show Fallout and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The audience applauds as Misha Collins walks onto the stage. The atmosphere is warm at first. The hosts smile, the crowd cheers, and Behar welcomes him to the table. Misha, welcome. It's good to have you here. You've had such an interesting career, and people know you not just from acting, but also from the way you speak about social issues, creativity, and your fans. Misha, thank you. It's great to be here. I've watched this show for years, so it's honestly a little surreal sitting here. The audience laughs lightly. Well, we're happy to have you. And I have to say, your fans are extremely loyal. They follow everything you do. But sometimes with that kind of influence comes a lot of responsibility, right? Misha, absolutely. I think anyone with a public platform has to think about how they use it. That sounds good, but here's where I get a little skeptical. Sometimes celebrities talk about responsibility, but then they make statements that divide people. They say they're encouraging conversation, but really they're just creating more arguments. The audience reacts with a few murmurs. Misha, I think there's a difference between creating conflict and having honest conversations. Sometimes people avoid difficult topics because they're afraid of disagreement. But don't you think some celebrities enjoy the attention that comes from controversy? Misha, some might. But I don't think it's fair to assume everyone is doing that. I'm not assuming everyone. I'm saying the entertainment industry rewards strong opinions. The louder you are, the more headlines you get. Misha, that can happen, yes. But being quiet isn't always the responsible choice either. A few people in the audience clap. See, that's interesting. Because that's where I think we disagree. Sometimes people confuse having an opinion with having expertise. Misha, that's true. But people also confuse being famous with not being allowed to have an opinion. The audience responds with a louder reaction. Pauses for a moment and looks at him. Nobody said you're not allowed to have an opinion. Misha, I know. I'm just saying there's a balance. But when millions of people listen to you, your words carry weight. Misha, I agree completely. Then why do celebrities sometimes criticize the public for reacting? Misha, because sometimes the reaction becomes more focused on attacking the person instead of discussing the idea. The audience becomes quieter. Host, I think what Misha is saying is that disagreement is different from personal attacks. Sure, but public figures also have to understand that people are going to challenge them. Misha, of course. I expect that. Do you? Because a lot of celebrities seem surprised when people push back. Misha, I don't think I'm surprised by pushback. I think sometimes I'm surprised by how quickly conversations turn into people deciding who someone is without actually listening. The audience claps. But isn't that part of being famous? Misha, it is part of it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't question whether it's healthy. Leans forward. Let me ask you something directly. Do you think celebrities have become too involved in public debates? Misha, I think people have become more involved in public debates in general. Social media changed everything. Everyone has a microphone now. But celebrities have a bigger microphone. Misha, absolutely. And that means they have a bigger responsibility. So we agree there. Misha, on that, yes. The crowd laughs. Well, that was easier than I expected. Everyone smiles, but the conversation shifts when another host brings up criticism Misha has received online. Host, but Misha, there's another side. Some people say actors and entertainers sometimes lecture audiences instead of talking with them. Misha, I understand that criticism. Nobody wants to feel talked down to. Exactly. Misha, but I also think intention matters. Someone can try to start a conversation and still communicate badly. Those things can both be true. The audience reacts positively. That's actually a more complicated answer than most people give. Misha, life is usually complicated. Fair enough. The table settles for a moment, but Joy returns to the point. Let me push you though. Because you have a lot of fans who admire you. Do you ever worry they agree with everything you say just because they like you? Misha, yes. And honestly, I think that's dangerous. The audience reacts. Misha, I don't want people to agree with me because they're fans. I'd rather people think for themselves. Joy, that's a very reasonable answer. Misha, because once you stop questioning people you admire, that's when problems start. The audience applauds. Joy, but here's the problem. A lot of people feel celebrities don't understand regular life anymore. Misha, some celebrities probably don't. Joy, that's a surprisingly honest answer. Misha, I think fame can create distance. Anyone who says it doesn't change your life is probably ignoring reality. The crowd listens closely. Joy, then how do you stay connected? Misha, by listening. By talking to people who disagree with me. By remembering that being known doesn't mean you know everything. Joy nods slightly. Joy, okay, but now I want to challenge one thing. Sometimes when celebrities say listen to different opinions, they only mean opinions they already agree with. Misha, that happens too. Joy, so how do people actually have a real conversation? Misha, by being willing to hear something uncomfortable without immediately assuming the other person is a bad person. The audience reacts with applause. Joy, that sounds nice, but it's hard. Misha, it's hard. Joy, because people are emotional. Misha, exactly. And public discussions become worse when everyone thinks they have to win instead of understand. The studio gets noticeably quieter. One of the hosts smiles. Host, I think we just went from a celebrity interview into a full debate. The audience laughs. Joy, well, that's what happens when someone comes here with actual answers. Misha, I thought I was coming here to talk about acting. Everyone laughs. Joy, we'll get there eventually. The mood becomes lighter for a moment, but the tension returns when Joy brings up online criticism. Joy, but I want to ask about something else. You've had moments where people online disagreed strongly with you. Do you think celebrities sometimes become too sensitive? Misha, sometimes yes. The audience reacts. Misha, but I also think the public sometimes forgets that celebrities are still people. Joy, there it is. That's the line everyone says. Misha, because it's true. Joy, but there's a difference between being a person and being accountable. Misha, I agree. Joy, so where is the line? Misha, the line is that accountability should focus on actions and ideas, not turning every mistake into a reason to destroy someone. The audience applauds. Joy, some people would say public pressure is what keeps famous people accountable. Misha, pressure can create accountability, but it can also create fear. Joy, fear of what? Misha, fear of speaking honestly. The audience goes quiet. Joy, but sometimes people need to be careful with what they say. Misha, absolutely. Joy, so maybe the problem is not criticism itself. Misha, right. The problem is when criticism stops being about improving a conversation and becomes about punishment. The crowd reacts strongly. Joy looks toward the other hosts. Joy, I think we've opened a much bigger conversation than we planned. Host, that usually happens here. The audience laughs. Joy turns back to Misha. Joy, I will say this. I expected you to be defensive, and you haven't been. Misha, I expected you to challenge me, and you have. Joy, good. That's the point. Misha, exactly. The audience applauds, but there is still a sense that the discussion isn't finished. Joy, we're going to continue this conversation after the break because there's still a lot to talk about. The audience claps as the cameras move away. The hosts prepare for the next segment, but viewers can feel that the conversation has shifted from a friendly interview into something much deeper. And when the show returns, the biggest disagreement of the day is still waiting. When the show returns from the break, the audience is still talking quietly among themselves. The atmosphere has changed. What started as a normal celebrity interview has become a serious discussion about fame, responsibility, and whether public conversations have become too divided. Joy Behar looks toward Misha Collins with a smile. Joy, we're back with Misha Collins, and before the break we got into a pretty serious conversation. Misha, we did. Joy, and I think the reason it got serious is because a lot of people watching at home have strong feelings about this. They wonder whether celebrities should speak on certain topics at all. Misha, I understand why people ask that. Joy, some people say, I watch actors to be entertained. I don't want to hear their opinions. Misha, that's fair. People have different expectations. Joy, but then others say, if someone has influence, they should use it. Misha, and that's where it gets complicated. The audience listens closely. Misha, because having a platform doesn't automatically mean someone has the perfect answer. It just means people are listening. And I think the responsibility is to be thoughtful. Joy, but thoughtful doesn't always mean popular. Misha, exactly. Joy. And sometimes when celebrities say things people disagree with, the reaction is immediate. Misha, yes. Joy. People unfollow them, criticize them, and sometimes even attack them personally. Misha, that's the part one think we need to examine. Joy, why? Misha, because disagreement is normal. But when disagreement turns into assuming someone's entire character from one sentence, that's where conversations fall apart. The audience applauds. Joy, but let me challenge that. Sometimes one sentence reveals a lot about what someone believes. Misha, sometimes it does. Joy, so why shouldn't people judge? Misha, they can judge actions and ideas. I'm not saying people shouldn't have opinions. I'm saying there's a difference between criticism and completely dismissing someone. Joy nods. Joy, I'll give you that. But public figures also have to understand that words have consequences. Misha, absolutely. Joy, because a normal person saying something and a celebrity saying something are not the same. Misha, the impact can be different, yes. Joy, so you accept that responsibility? Misha, completely. The crowd applauds again. Host, I think what makes this interesting is that neither of you is actually disagreeing about responsibility. You're disagreeing about how people should respond. Joy, that's true. Misha, exactly. The conversation becomes calmer, but Joy continues. Joy, let me ask you something personal. Have you ever looked back at something you said publicly and thought, I could have handled that differently? Misha pauses. Misha, definitely. The audience reacts. Misha, everyone has moments where they wish they explained themselves better. Joy, even people who are careful? Misha, especially people who are careful. Because sometimes you think you communicated clearly, and then you realize people heard something completely different. Joy, that happens to everyone. Misha, right. Joy, but celebrities rarely admit that. Misha, I think some do. They just don't always get attention for it. The audience laughs. Joy, that might be true. One of the hosts joins in. Host, social media also changed everything. There's no time to process anything anymore. Misha, exactly. Everything happens instantly. Joy, and everyone becomes a critic. Misha, everyone becomes a commentator. Joy, including us. The audience laughs. Misha, yes, including everyone at this table. Joy, fair. The mood becomes lighter, but the discussion continues. Joy, another thing people argue about, is whether celebrities live in a bubble. Misha, some probably do. Joy, again, very honest. Misha, because it's reality. When your daily life becomes different from most people's lives, you have to recognize that. Joy, so how do you avoid that? Misha, by staying curious. By remembering that your experience isn't everyone's experience. The audience applauds. Joy, I actually think that's something people can agree with. Misha, I hope so. Joy, but I still want to push you on something. Misha, go ahead. Joy, some people watching might say, Misha is saying all the right things because he's on television. The audience reacts. Misha smiles. Misha, that's possible. Joy, you're not offended? Misha, no. People are allowed to be skeptical. Joy, really? Misha, yes. Skepticism is healthy. Blind trust isn't. The audience applauds. Joy, that's probably the most balanced answer we've had all day. Misha, thank you. Joy, but now I want to ask about fans. Sometimes fans defend celebrities so strongly that they attack anyone who disagrees. Misha, I've seen that happen. Joy, how do you handle that? Misha, I try to remind people that supporting someone doesn't mean attacking everyone else. Joy, that's an important distinction. Misha, you can like someone and still question them. The audience responds positively. Joy, the interesting thing about this conversation is that at the beginning, I thought we were going to disagree more. Misha, maybe we disagree on some things. Joy, we probably do. Misha, but disagreement doesn't have to become a fight. The audience applauds. Joy, unless you're on a talk show. Everyone laughs. Host, especially this one. The audience laughs louder. Joy, we like a good debate. Misha, clearly. Joy, but I think viewers also appreciate when people actually listen. Misha, I agree. A few moments pass. Joy, there was a moment earlier where you said something that caught my attention. You said people should focus on ideas instead of trying to destroy someone. Misha, yes. Joy, do you think the internet has made people too quick to attack? Misha, I think the internet has made everything faster. And speed doesn't always help understanding. Joy, that's true. Misha, people respond before they process. Joy, because everyone wants to be first. Misha, exactly. The audience nods and applauds. Joy, so what's the solution? Misha, I don't know if there's one solution. Joy, that's a very honest answer. Misha, but maybe it starts with people remembering there's another human being on the other side. The audience applauds strongly. The hosts exchange looks. Host, that's probably a good place to end. Joy, almost. The audience laughs. Joy, I still have one last question. Misha, okay. Joy, after all this, would you still come back? Misha laughs. Misha, yes. Joy, even after I challenged you? Misha, especially after you challenged me. The audience cheers. Joy, good answer. The segment ends with both smiling and shaking hands. The cameras cut away, but the conversation continues online almost immediately. Clips from the interview spread across social media. Some viewers praise Misha for staying calm and thoughtful during a difficult conversation. Others say Joy asked the questions many people wanted answered. The debate continues, with people discussing whether celebrities should speak publicly, how audiences respond, and where the line between criticism and personal attacks should be. Fans comment that the most surprising part wasn't the disagreement itself, but the fact that both sides stayed engaged instead of turning the conversation into a personal argument. Others debate specific moments from the interview, replaying the exchange and sharing their opinions. By the end of the day, the interview becomes one of the most talked-about segments from the show. Behind the scenes, the hosts continue discussing the conversation, saying that the best debates are not always the ones where someone wins, but the ones where people actually hear each other. Misha later says that difficult conversations are necessary, even when they are uncomfortable. The audience leaves with mixed opinions, but one thing is clear. The discussion created exactly what live television often tries to create, a moment where people stop, listen, and think. What started as a simple interview became a conversation about communication, responsibility, and the challenges of living in a world where every opinion can instantly reach millions. Share their opinion in the comments and subscribe to Talk Show Fallout for more real talk show stories.